Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago, and welcome to the Bourse Report. Well, three calendar quarters of the year have been completed, and it's been a pretty tough time for equity investors, both locally and internationally. Let's get straight into it, and we'll take a look at what has happened both in the domestic and international equity markets, as well as what investors may be able to do to better position their portfolios. At home, the local market has been down as measured by the Trinidad and Tobago Composite Index, just around 3.7% year to date. And it has been a relatively steady decline throughout the year, and that can be illustrated in the green line that goes from left to right. Now, the cross-listed index, which comprises mostly those stocks primarily listed outside of Trinidad and Tobago, but with a secondary listing at home, has declined just around 7.3%, and you can see that in the blue. And those stocks primarily listed in Trinidad and Tobago as measured by the All TNT Index have declined just around 2.2%. So things were going along reasonably well until just about March, and then there was a pretty steady decline both in the domestic and cross-listed stocks. Who have been some of the major movers for the year thus far ended September? Well, Agostini was one of the leaders on the stock market, just up around 10.6%, followed by TTNGL, up around 9.8%. The three of the major banks listed on the stock exchange rounded out the top 5 advances for the year, with Scotiabank up just around 8.1%, followed by Republic Financial Holdings up around 2.2%, and First Citizens up 1.9%. In terms of some of the laggards on the stock exchange for performance this year, we see that we have, I think that's Witco on the end, as well as Nell, down just around 8.6%, and Antimacal down just about 11.1% as well. Major developments to look forward to in the next few months to close off the 2018 year. Well, Cinema One and its IPO comes to a close, or the offer period comes to a close this week. And Cinema One, as you know, is the first entertainment-focused IPO, and the only equity IPO, in fact, of the year. And the aim to raise just around $31 million, and that's expected to close, as mentioned, at the end of this week. On a slightly larger scale, Republic Financial Holdings made an offer to Cayman National Corporation, one of the largest financial services providers in Cayman Islands, to acquire between 51 and 74.99% of their shareholding at a price of US $6.25 per share. Now, the board of Cayman National has since recommended that shareholders accept the offer on the account of its very significant attractiveness relative to where the share has been trading over the past 12 months or so. And that should that be successful, that could cost Republic Financial Holdings, in terms of the acquisition, anywhere between 135 million to 198 million US, depending on the level of investor take-up for the offer. Switching gears to the international arena, and it's been a pretty tough year at the international level as well for stock markets, unless you were totally invested in the US stock market, which was up just around 9% as at the end of September. Otherwise, most of the other major investing regions or stock markets were down significantly. Latin America was down just around 8.9%. The Asian region was also down 8.1%, and Europe was down just around 5%. Now, what has been driving some of this performance? Well, several factors. One being higher US interest rates, which have placed some pressure on emerging market currencies, and that would have weighed on the Latin American and Asian regions, as well as higher oil prices for the Latin American and Asian regions, which are typically net energy importers, and of course, the ongoing tiff with respect to trade tensions between the US and China and the broader world, which has also weighed on the Asian and China regions, which are Asian and Latin American regions, which are typically net exporters. So as we can see, this has been manifested in terms of performance. If you would have sold your portfolio at the end of January rather, you would have been much better off actually than if you had held it until the end of September. However, what can investors do to better position their portfolios? Well, if you're taking a look at the domestic side, look for stocks which offer you value through lower price earnings multiples, offer you a higher dividend yield in terms of being able to hold while the stock market fluctuates, offer some lower measure of TNT exposure or exposure to the Trinidad and Tobago economy, and also offer some hedge against any potential TT dollar depreciation by generating US dollar revenues and earnings or generating US dollar dividends. That's it for this week's edition. For more information on how you can invest in both the local and international equity markets, give us a call at 226-8773 or 2BORSE. Email us at invest@borsefinancial.com or check out our website at borseinvestment.com. See you next week. This has been the Bourse Report.